this is the official IndyCar game website. It is still up. You can still sign up to receive the latest updates about the official IndyCar game, which is, yeah, I mean, Motorsport Games don't have the license anymore, so I don't really know how this is happening, but this website is still up. It is still running. Back in November of 2023, Motorsport Games suspended the development of the IndyCar game. This was before they sold the NASCAR license to iRacing, and this was before the agreement with IndyCar and Motorsport Games basically got terminated. So then iRacing was able to go and run the Indy 500 this year, but they suspended any development of the IndyCar game. This game was being made by Motorsport Games in the Australia studio. And I know personally who was working on that game. I saw this game back in, I think, what year was it now? 2022. I saw this game. It looked really good. They had a lot of promising features in it. The UI was clean, and it was pretty far into development even back then. So with a whole nother year of development, this game, I'm telling you guys, like I've said as always, I've said with you guys, this game was extremely close to being finished even 7-8 months ago before it got fully suspended. This game was 100% going to be ready to come out in 2024, and they decided not to release it because they had to sell everything. And that leads us to this story, by the way. This is an ad, I think, on my computer, but shout out to Moza Racing. Yes, check the link in the description down below. I am an affiliate partner of Moza Racing. Helps out the channel, and to be honest, they are the best value, in my opinion, in sim racing. So yes, check them out. That's very funny how that's there. But IndyCar secures game assets following settlement with Motorsport Games. This was yesterday, and so this is kind of confusing, but we have to read about it because this is very, very important. So after intending to terminate the license in late 2023, IndyCar has reached a settlement with Motorsport Games, handing the game assets to IndyCar themselves. Hope for a standalone game is rekindled as a result. Now, remember what I've been saying, guys. When the game was suspended and then the license was basically terminated, and they were working on that throughout this time, well, on June 6th, they have apparently reached an agreement, and the game assets, the game itself, is now in IndyCar's hands. And what I've been saying this whole time, guys, this game was extremely close to being finished. You could take my word on that. They were 100% very close to being finished, and I promise you, if Motorsport Games didn't go down, this game would have released this year in 2024. They were aiming for the Indy 500, but obviously with no employees basically to work on it, and they had to sell. That is what they did. So the game assets have now been given to IndyCar themselves, and now IndyCar can look at the assets and maybe give it to another studio. Let's read more into the article. So updated on June 6th, according to Motorsport Games CEO Stephen Hood, the settlement has been completed without iRacing stepping in for the final part of the payments. The final part of the NASCAR license sale to iRacing is that there is one more payment that iRacing are due to make to Motorsport Games, which at the moment is scheduled for the end of the year. It can be triggered earlier if we pull the NASCAR games from sale because we still have the license to sell them until the end of the year. That's about the NASCAR license. Essentially, the iRacing payment mentioned in the deal acted as security for IndyCar, as the two entities have a business relationship already. If Motorsport Games wasn't here tomorrow, they would still get their money. Hood continued, it was an interesting idea, maybe more complex than it needed to be, but that was all cleared up anyway. We cleared up the remaining payment, so there is nothing outstanding, and the deal is concluded. iRacing are not involved in any capacity, and that is with IndyCar. So the deal for IndyCar, the assets are now officially done. The assets have been handed to IndyCar. The original article back on May 24th, this was the company first saw its BTC license terminated. It was then served with a notice that IndyCar intended to do the same. MSG was supposed to create a standalone game for both series, but failed to fulfill their agreement. And then iRacing brought back IndyCar to its service, including the Indy 500 special event, which took place. Having struck a multi-year licensing deal, sim racers hope that maybe iRacing could deliver a standalone game for the premier U.S. Open Wheel Racing. U.S. Open Wheel Racing Series. That is hard to say. A new SEC filing states that Motorsport Games and IndyCar have reached a settlement that will have MSG pay $400,000 instead of the approximate $2.9 million that the company owed to the Indianapolis-based racing series. This is to be split into a $250,000 payment to be made by MSG immediately and another $150,000 payment to be made by either MSG within 30 days of the agreement or by iRacing until December 31st. Again, that has been paid within 30 days of the agreement. They have paid it. It is now over. An option to create the game or the result of other paragraphs regarding the IndyCar license. Time will tell what option is to go ahead. And this is the very important part. IndyCar can choose the studio to resume development. So now they have the assets, they have everything. They can now choose a studio if they want to work on this game. So more interestingly, the Sim Racers, however, the settlement also includes the transfer of the rights to all licensed intellectual property for the IndyCar development project for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox formats, including the software source code, tools, and applications necessary for a professional development team to resume development and production. Furthermore, MSG is obligated to work for a smooth handover, according to the settlement. So the company is to provide up to 50 hours of consulting to facilitate the transition of the IndyCar Series game development to the software developer of IndyCar's choice. Very, very important here. So if IndyCar wanted to, they can take the game that was being made on the Unreal Engine, the source code that was being made by Motorsport Games. They can take that, give it to another studio to work on, and release the game in a finished state if they choose. Who this software developer could be remains unanswered for now, but with iRacing being listed as an option to pay the $150,000 part of the settlement, it could point towards the US-based racing simulation developer. Supposedly the game, initially supposed to be developed by Motorsport Games Australia, was relatively far along in development, and it was 100% far along in development. If I had to say, 90%. I think they only had 10% left on the game to work on. It was just polishing, in my opinion. Should the IndyCar game finally materialize somewhere down the road, it will be the first standalone game for the U.S. Open Wheel Racing Series in at least 20 years. IndyCar Series 2005, which I still haven't played yet. I do want to play it. I might make a video on that because I've never played that game. Was released in June 2004 at the time. The Indy Racing League and Champ Car World Series were still going head-to-head as part of the split from 96 to 2008. So IndyCar fans, this is very, very big news for you. This is my hope for this game. I hope we see this game one day. I really do. I think the physics system of this game was very, very well done. I think the technology that they had in this game was very well done. This game took a lot from KartCraft, which KartCraft was obviously a pretty good game in terms of physics. This game had a lot of those, under the hood aspects put into IndyCar. I saw the crash physics. I saw how the suspension would react to the racetrack. They had a new scanned version of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The UI was already planned out. They had a lot of things already done, and that was back in 2022. So I'm telling you guys, this game was 100% definitely far along. It looked really promising, and I just hope one day that IndyCar, this is up to IndyCar now. So I want to point out that this is not up to iRacing. This is not up to any other developer that you could think of, 2K, EA, Milestone, indie developer, anyone else. No, this is not up to them. This is up to IndyCar. IndyCar already have a working relationship with iRacing, but if IndyCar want, they can, after the NASCAR game maybe comes out in 2025, they can look towards iRacing and Monster Games and maybe hand them this and say, like, can you work on this and maybe release it? That's the only thing, is that I don't think a game, or this game specifically, is going to come out anytime soon, because IndyCar would have to find someone to work with, and their current relationship with iRacing, well, iRacing's fully focused on the console side of things. They are fully focused on that NASCAR console game coming out in 2025. So I don't really see how they could take a project from another developer, the source code from another developer, and people that are just not, it does say here 50 hours of consulting to facilitate the transition of the game. But still, if you're not familiar with how the game was currently made, how much time would you have to put in to actually make the game release? My hope is that IndyCar gives this to iRacing, and then maybe in, let's say 2026, you update the paints on the game, you update the driver list, you update certain tracks, you update the schedule, you try to make the game compliant to the 2026 IndyCar series, and you release it then. I don't see this getting picked up immediately by someone and getting released this year or even next year, because it is just too difficult to, take someone else's game and then release it under yourself. However, for a business opportunity, I think this is actually a pretty good business opportunity for anyone who wants to work on this game, because the game is so far along in development. Honestly, you don't have to put an insane amount of resource development and hours into this game in order to release it in a pretty good state. This game was already in a very far along state. I think if you have someone that can work on it and not invest too much money into it because it's already basically done, then you can actually make a decent amount of profit from it if that's what IndyCar and whoever the gaming studio wants to do, wants it to be, if they want to do that. This is very, very good news for IndyCar fans. My hope now is that, months ago when Motorsport Games sold the NASCAR license and the IndyCar game was terminated, my hope for this game was, it was dead. I was hoping there was somehow, some way they could get this game to somebody else and work on it, but I didn't think it was possible. Now, with this news that the assets have been transferred over to IndyCar, and now it's up to IndyCar just to find someone to develop the game, my hope is very, very high now. I do believe you will eventually see this game with somebody. I don't know who that will be, but I really hope that IndyCar can make the right decision here, get this game to someone to work on, and that the community can have this as a standalone game on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, alongside the NASCAR console game that's coming out in 2025 for iRacing, alongside, let's say, like World of Outlaws that the iRacing studio is also working on that's coming out later this year, and you would have a much stronger plethora of a portfolio of games on the console side that multiplayer, offline, career mode, stuff like that could do well. So this is really, really terrific news in my opinion. And IndyCar fans, you have hope. So let's see if this game is actually alive and if it is going to come. Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years. That would be my hope. In the next 2 to 3 years, we see this game on the shelves and we can play it somehow, some way, published by somebody. I would really, really like to see that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon members, as we always do. Thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are the absolute best. Check the links in the description down below if you want to help support the channel. Hit the like button. Comment down below with what you think about all this very complicated business stuff, but this is the best news possible for IndyCar fans. Honestly, your game was most likely dead, but it does have hope now, and hopefully we will see it one day in the future. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.